Hello and welcome to Hands-on Art. Today we're going to learn about optical illusion art and we're going to make a wavy paper art kind of like this. Believe me, it's easier than it looks. All right, let's get started. First, what is an optical illusion? Well, basically it's something you see that tricks your eyes. Anything optical relates to the eyes, and an illusion is something that appears to be true, but maybe it isn't. Check out some examples of optical illusion art, or op art for short. Op art started appearing a little less than 100 years ago. This piece, called Zebras, was done by an artist named Victor Vasarely in 1937. He's considered a pioneer, or one of the first people to try this kind of art. Here is another example of art where what is the background, also called negative space, and what is the foreground can confuse the viewer. Do you see a vase or two faces looking at each other? Let's look at a few more examples and think about the kinds of tools people use to create these illusions. One thing we should know is that just because we see something doesn't make it a fact all by itself. Our brains use clues around us to help us figure out what we are seeing. For instance, which line is longer? The top one or the bottom one? Surprise, they are the same. Our brains use the clues from the road, which appears to be disappearing into the distance, to convince us that the top line is longer. Often, op art uses mathematically inspired geometric shapes in black and white like these from artist Bridget Riley. Some optical illusions use color to make our eyes go all wonky. Look at this image for a few seconds and see what happens to your eyes. The contrasting colors and patterns give the illusion that the art is moving. Really, it isn't. Some optical illusion art creates impossible worlds, like these images by artist M.C. Escher. Can you sit in one of those benches or climb the stairs? I don't know, not me. Okay, now that you've learned a little bit about optical illusion art, are you ready to give it a try? Let's try making some wavy paper. Okay, let's talk about what we need to get started. So we'll need a piece of paper. I have one that's a little thicker, but a plain piece of copy paper is fine. A pencil, a black marker if you have one. If not, the darkest one you have, like a dark blue, or I guess even a black pen could work. A ruler or a straight edge is nice if you have one. It's not mandatory. And something to color with. So colored pencils are a possibility, or crayons, or markers. If you do use markers, I'd suggest you skip the skinny ones. It's nicer to have a fat tip to color with. But basically, you just need something to color with. So gather up your supplies, pause the video, and come on back. Okay, welcome back, everybody. So the first thing we're going to do is find our pencil, and we're going to make a dot somewhere near the center of our paper. Doesn't have to be exact at all. So there's my dot. And if you want to do the next step in pencil and then go over it in marker, you can. I'm going to go straight for my marker so that you can see it very well. And I'm going to show you two ways to make the lines, and you can decide what one will work best for you. So recommend, if you can, try to find a ruler or a straight edge. And I'm going to just have it go all the way across my paper and run through that dot in the middle. Now that dot is our vanishing point. That's where in our final piece, everything will appear to disappear into that dot. So my first line, I'll go through that dot. Now notice I'm putting my fingers kind of far apart. I'm going to push down. That keeps my ruler from wobbling and going where I don't want it to go. And I go all the way down and through that dot. Now I'll turn my ruler a little, and I can still see my dot. If you covered it up, it's okay. You can kind of remember where it is. Notice my ruler's not quite long enough to handle this. So I'll scoot it so it's long enough on one side, goes through my middle, and I'll go as far as I can, and then I'll scooch it a little. Try to keep it straight. There we go. So now I've got 2 lines. So that's how you do it with a ruler. We'll just keep, you know, going around. When we're done, we'll probably make 5 or 6 lines, something like that. Or you can just freehand it. So if you do it freehand, you're going to start on one side of the paper, and you'll kind of keep your eye on that middle, and you'll try to go through the middle. And notice that's not as straight as these 2 lines, but it's fine. We'll still be able to do our project. So maybe I'll make 2 more lines. Looks like I have good space for that. I don't want to get them too close together because it'll make my coloring tricky. Okay, so there's one. And I'll do 1 more, maybe, you know, from here to here. So, okay, so hopefully you have something that looks like this, kind of like spokes on a wheel. If you ended up with a little triangle in the center because the lines weren't completely in the same spot, that's fine. Don't worry about that. Now we're going to pick a wedge, and that, by a wedge, I mean one of these triangles, and we're going to put curved lines. So first one I'm going to do, it doesn't matter which one, but I'm going to pick this one, and I'll think about drawing like a rainbow or a frowny face. If it's a little off center and you come over here, you know, it's fine. If it's more like a letter J than a letter C, that's perfectly fine. So I've drawn 1, 2, 3, 4 lines. You can draw, you know, there's not a right number. I wouldn't put a whole ton because it'll make it a lot harder to color. So now I'm going to skip the second wedge, and I'll go to the next wedge. And I'm going to make more rainbows and about the same spacing that I did before. So I'm going to continue like that all the way around until I have done every other wedge on the whole paper. So you go ahead and do that, and I'll see you back. Okay, I bet you can guess what we're going to do next, but I'll show you. So on all of these blank wedges, we're going to curve our line the other way. So if we had rainbows before, now we're going to have smiley faces. And I'm kind of joining the lines, but it's not mandatory. If you, let's say we're a little off over here and we didn't meet up, it's okay, because if our paper went in together, the stripes might not line up perfectly anymore. So again, I'm going to turn my paper, and on every one of these blank wedges, I'm going to put a smiley face curve, and I'm going to loosely join up the lines. By the way, if you see the video going very fast, that might be a good time for you to pause the video while you do your own coloring. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is we're going to start coloring in our wedges. Now, we can use crayon or colored pencil or a marker. I'm going to choose a marker, and I've got a blue one here with a nice fat tip, and I'm just going to pick a wedge. And so this is the first wedge I see. I like to outline it. I think it makes it a little neater if you outline it and then color it in. And then I'm going to skip this white one, and I'll make the next one blue. I'm going to outline it again, color it in. If it's not perfectly colored in, you see a little white here and there, that's fine. Okay, so I'm going to skip this one, and I'll do this one. And I'll go all the way to the edge of my paper. Then I'm going to skip the next wedge, the one with the smiley faces, and I'll do every other wedge. Now, if you think you might forget, you can always put a little dot to help you remember which ones that you want to color blue, or which ones you want to color whatever color you're coloring, and go from there all the way around. My blue is running out of ink, so I had to switch markers. If you have to pick a different color, that's fine. Your illusion will still work out. Okay, I'm done with my blue, and now I'll pick a different color and we'll go on the wedges that are still blank. Let's see what color I've got here. I'm gonna pick orange because orange and blue are complementary colors and they really make each other pop. If I did the middle blue, I'm gonna go, the second one, I'm gonna make orange so that the colors alternate. And there we go. So I've got orange, and then I'm gonna skip and have that be white, and I'm gonna make the next one orange. And I'm gonna do that for all over my paper. I'm gonna make orange and white, orange and white. All right, I'll see you when you're done. You can choose whatever color you like, or colors if you want to do more than one color. And I'll see you back when you're done. Okay, I'm done. If you want to color the white some other color, you may, but if your hand's tired, you can completely stop and that's fine. Okay, now if you want, you can be done, or if you want to take your illusion one step further, you can add some shadows. So I'll show you in case you want to add some shadows. Now, if this were really wavy paper, everywhere that the paper went down together, there would be shadows. So I'm going to use my pencil because it's gray like a shadow, and I'm going to color lightly, lightly along these lines. Notice I'm even laying my pencil a little sideways, not pressing very hard. And as I come out here, I'm going to get a little wider. I'm going to be skinnier, and I'm going to make it like a triangle where my shadow gets a little wider as I go back. And just like I did before, I like to turn my paper. It helps me if the angle is like this a little more, but you know, you don't have to, but I like to turn my paper. And I'm going to go around the entire piece and add a little bit of shading. Okay, I'm done with the shading, but I'm not done with my illusion. It looks a little better. I'll teach you a trick of the trade. If you smudge your pencil. So I'm just using my finger and I'm pushing pretty hard and I'm smudging. Now our fingers have a little bit of oil on them and that helps things to smudge. And if you find that yours isn't smudging well, you might see how I'm picking different fingers. You might choose a different finger to smudge with. And that'll make your line look more like a shadow and less like you colored it with pencil. Be a better trick for your eye. Okay, my paper's all smudged and I think it's becoming very much more looking like a piece of wavy paper. Now there's one more fun little thing we can do. Again, it's optional. You don't have to do it, but you can if you want. And that is, we can add a person that falls into our wavy paper. So I'm gonna do a super simple, like kind of almost a stick figure. And they're gonna have their arms out. I'm falling, oh no. And here's their body. Maybe their legs are doing the same thing. We'll put their feet on here, going up, and their hands. Here we go. Oh, I think I mean 2, 3, 4. And they're going big wide eyes, oh no, and a big oh. Maybe their hair is going crazy too. Okay, so once you draw your falling person, you can color it in if you want. Okay, now I'm gonna get a pair of scissors and cut this out. If cutting is pretty tricky for you, maybe you can find an adult or a big brother or sister to help you out when they aren't busy. Okay, now that we have our person, they can fall onto the wavy paper. You could even take a picture of yourself pretending to fall. The important thing is to cut out around it so that it doesn't just look like a piece of paper on a piece of paper. Okay, I had so much fun making art with you today. I hope you had fun too. And go out and have an art-filled week.